Par Ashritara Shatashmar Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shila Gurudev Ki Jai Nitila Pavishtam Vishnupar Ashritara Shatashmar Shila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Nitila Pavishtam Vishnupar Ashritara Shatashmar Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitila Pavishtam Vishnupar Ashritara Shatashmar Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Nitila Pavishtam Vishnupar Ashritara Shatashmar Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitila Pavishta Maha-Bhagavat Shila Goksharas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Nitila Pavishta Shila Shatchirananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Nitila Pavishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Rupa Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadashvanath Shad Gosai Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Kshetra Mandal Kora Mandal Vraja Mandal Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Sarva Vishwaparata Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Arakund Shamakund Ki Jai Shri Mona Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Purnamasi Yoga Maya Ki Jai Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Okay, I'm sharing my screen with you. Dandavat Pranams, Pradyumna Prabhu, Gargaraj, Madhavi Didi, Indira Mataji. I'm actually feeling so exhausted, like ridiculously exhausted. After Mangalati, I went to sleep and I just woke up. I haven't even taken bath yet or anything. Anyhow, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to read everything today because today is 6,300 words. Usually we read like 5,000 words, or a bit over 5,000. So anyhow, I'm just going to start. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shishimar Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namane Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalai Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Tvaipayano Viraha Katara Arjuhavo Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Bhinedu Stang Sarvabhuta Hridaya Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskrityam Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamutirayet Shinvatang Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Vedantasto Yabhadrani Vedanoti Suritsatam Nashta Prayeshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavai Vasmi Najivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam Bhakta Vihina Aparada Lakshaya Kshiptastakama Titarangamati Kripa Maitam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanaravindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, wow. And Dita Mataji is sitting on Yamuna's shore right now. That must be so nice. Yeah, so I might stop earlier. I actually only slept like less than 3 hours last night, and I didn't really make it up in the day at all. And now it's starting to hit me. But anyway, okay. So, um, just going very quick recap, like more quick than usual. Suruchi, she chastises Dhruva for wanting to sit on the lap of his father. And then he's angry, he goes to his mother. Dhruva's mother Suniti says, "Don't wish ill fortune for others. Suruchi's words are true. Worship the Lord like Brahma and Manu, for no one else can extinguish your distress." Narad then tests Dhruva's determination. Narad says, "Don't be affected by honor and dishonor. One who understands the law of karma is satisfied by whatever comes by destiny. The process advised by your mother is difficult. Even mystic yogis failed, so don't try. By endurance and the right attitude, one surpasses miseries." Then Dhruva says, "But I'm a Kshatriya and I can't really accept these words. I can't. I'm not just like a peaceful Brahmin." Dhruva says, "So advise an honest path to attain the most exalted position in the three worlds." Then Narad says, "Go to Madhuban, practice Ashtanga Yoga, and meditate on the Lord's form. Chant the Dada Shakshar mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and worship the deity." Then Dhruva goes to the forest, goes to Madhuban, takes baths, starts austerities. Then Narad goes and meets and pacifies Uttanapad. Narad and Uttanapad's moroseness. Uttanapad regrets his unkind things, not in future success. Then explains Dhruva's severe austerities and meditation. The three worlds tremble. Earth is pushed down, suffocated. The demigods are fearful, but then the Lord reassures them. Then, chapter 9. Come on, where is it? Then the Lord appears. Then the Lord disappeared, because Dhruva was meditating on the Lord in his heart. But then the Lord disappeared. And when Dhruva opened up his eyes, he saw the Lord and felt ecstasy. Then the Lord touches Dhruva with his conch. And then Dhruva makes a bunch of prayers to the Lord. And then the Lord bestows benedictions to Dhruva and departs. The Lord says, I will award your material desires along with prema. You will rule for 36,000 years in Dhruvalok without old age. That's where we read up to. So the Lord gave benedictions. So now we're continuing on. After the Lord gives the benedictions. After your father goes to the forest and awards you the rule of his kingdom, you will rule continuously the entire world for 36,000 years, and all your senses will continue to be as strong as they are now. You will never become old. Okay. Tvarbhartyutame nashte mrigyayam tu tanmana mrigayayam tu tanmana anveshanti vanam mata tavagnem sa pravikshati. The Lord continued, sometime in the future, your brother Uttama will go hunting in the forest, and while absorbed in hunting, he will be killed. Your stepmother, Suruchi, being maddened upon the death of her son, will go to search for him out in the forest, but she will be devoured by a forest fire. Yikes. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Dhruva Maharaj came to the forest to search out the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with a revenging spirit against his stepmother. His stepmother had insulted Dhruva, who was not an ordinary person, but a great Vaishnava. An offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava is the greatest offense in this world. Because of having insulted Dhruva Maharaj, Suruchi would become mad upon the death of her son and would enter a forest fire, and thus her life would be ended. This was specifically mentioned by the Lord to Dhruva because he was determined to revenge against her. From this, we should take the lesson that we should never try to insult a Vaishnava. Not only should we not insult a Vaishnava, but we should not insult anyone unnecessarily. When Suruchi insulted Dhruva Maharaj, he was just a child. She of course did not know that Dhruva was a great recognized Vaishnava, and so her offense was committed unknowingly. When one serves a Vaishnava, one still gets the good result, and if one unknowingly insults a Vaishnava, one suffers the bad result. A Vaishnava is especially favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pleasing him or displeasing him directly affects the pleasure and displeasure of the Supreme Lord. This is really nice. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his 8 stanzas of prayer to the spiritual master, has sung Yasya Prasadad Bhagavat Prasado. By pleasing the spiritual master, who is a pure Vaishnava, one pleases the personality of Godhead. But if one displeases the spiritual master, one does not know where he is going. I like this. Anyhow, I'll go back to that later. I'll share it on Facebook. Ishtva mam yaga hridayam yaga pushkala dakshinai bhuktva cheha shisha satya ante mam smarishyasi. The Lord continued, I am the heart of all sacrifices. You will be able to perform many great sacrifices and also give great charities. In this way, you'll be able to enjoy the blessings of material happiness in this life, and at the time of your death, you'll be able to remember me. Purport. The most important factor in this verse is the Lord's instructions regarding how to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead at the end of life. Ante Narayana Smriti. The result of whatever we do in executing spiritual activities is successful if we can remember Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This program of constant remembrance can be disturbed by many things, but Dhruva Maharaj's life would be so pure, as assured by the Lord himself, that Dhruva would never forget him. Thus, at the time of his death, he would remember the Supreme Lord, and before his death, he would enjoy this material world, not by sense gratification, but by performing great sacrifices. As stated in the Vedas, when one performs great sacrifices, he must give charity, not only to the Brahmins, but also the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. It is assured here that Dhruva Maharaj would be able to perform such activities. In this age of Kali, however, the great sacrifice is the performance of Sankirtan Yajna. Our Krishna consciousness movement is designed to teach people, and to learn ourselves, the exact instruction of the personality of Godhead. In this way, we shall continuously perform the Sankirtan Yajna and continuously chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Then, at the end of our lives, we shall certainly be able to remember Krishna, and our program of life will be successful. In this age, distribution of prasad has replaced distribution of money. No one has sufficient money to distribute, but if we distribute Krishna prasad as far as possible, this is more valuable than the distribution of money. Actually, I just talked to my parents a couple days ago, and they said that they were asking me what they thought, if they thought I thought this was good. But whenever anybody begs money from them in America, like any homeless person, they don't give him money, but they go inside they go inside a store, buy something, offer it, and give it to him. And then they give him prasad. I'll send them this verse. Tato gantaslimatstanam sarvaloka namaskritam uparishtar rishibhyastvam yato na vartate gata. The personality of Godhead continued, My dear Dhruva, after your material life in this body, you will go to my planet, which is always offered obeisances by the residents of all other planetary systems. It is situated above the planets of the 7 rishis, and having gone there, you will never have to come back again to this material world. Purport. In this verse, the word navartate is very significant. The Lord says, "You will not come back to this material world, for you will reach Matstanam, my abode." Therefore, Dhruva Loka, or the pole star, is the abode of Lord Vishnu within this material world. Upon it there is an ocean of milk, and within that ocean there is an island known as Shvetadvip. It is clearly indicated that this planet is situated above the 7 planetary systems of the rishis, and because this planet is Vishnu Loka, it is worshipped by all other planetary systems. It may be questioned here, what will happen to the planet known as Dhruva Loka at the time of dissolution of this universe? The answer is simple. Dhruva Loka remains, like other Vaikuntha Lokas beyond this universe. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has commented in this connection that the very word navartate indicates that this planet is eternal. Maitreya Uvacha Itarchitas Bhagavan Atidishyatmana Padam Palasya Pashato Dhamma Sam Agad Garuda Dvaja. The great sage Maitreya said, after being worshipped and honored by the boy Dhruva Maharaj, and after offering him his abode, Lord Vishnu, on the back of Garuda, returned to his abode, as Dhruva Maharaj looked on. Purport. From this verse it appears that Lord Vishnu awarded Dhruva Maharaj the same abode in which he resides. His abode is described in the Bhagavad Gita 15:6. Yar gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. Yar gatva, once having gone there, na nivartante, you do not have to return. Tad dhama paramam mama. My dham, that dham is, that dham of mine, mama, is supreme, is the topmost. One second. Let me just see. Okay. Looks like it's all working well. Oh, wow. Thanks for sharing that lecture, Rajumna Prabhu. Okay. 1 second, I need to drink some water. Sopi sankalpajam Vishnu paraseva pasaditam prapya sankalpa nirvanam nati prito bhyagatpuram. Despite having achieved the desired result of his determination by worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord, Dhruva Maharaj was not very pleased. Thus he returned to his home. Let me clear my throat a bit. Purports. By worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord in devotional service as instructed by Narad Muni, Dhruva Maharaj achieved the desired result. His desire was to get a very exalted position, excelling that of his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. And although it was a somewhat childish determination, because Dhruva Maharaj was nothing but a small child, Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is so kind and merciful that he fulfilled Dhruva's desire. Dhruva Maharaj wanted a residence more exalted than any ever occupied by anyone else in his family, and his great-grandfather was Lord Brahma. Therefore, he was offered the planet in which the Lord personally resides, and his determination was completely satisfied. Still, when Dhruva Maharaj returned home, he was not very much pleased, for although in pure devotional service, there is no demands from the Lord. Because of his childish nature, he had demanded something. Thus, although the Lord has fulfilled his desire, he was not very pleased. Rather, he was ashamed that he demanded something from the Lord, for he should have not done this. Vidura uvacha sadurlabam yat paramam padang hare Maya vinashtat charanarchanarjitam labdva visiddhartam ivaika janmana katang samatmanam amanyatartavid. Sri Vidura inquired, My dear Brahman, the abode of the Lord is very difficult to attain. It can be attained only by pure devotional service, which alone pleases the most affectionate, merciful Lord. Dhruva Maharaj achieved this position even in one life, and he was very wise and conscientious. Why then was he not very pleased? Purport. Saint Vidura's inquiry is very relevant. The word arthavit, which refers to one who knows how to discriminate between reality and unreality, is very significant in this connection. An arthavit is also called paramahamsa. A paramahamsa accepts only the active principle of everything. Just as a swan accepts only milk from a mixture of water and milk, a paramahamsa accepts only the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his life and soul, neglecting all external material things. Dhruva Maharaj was in this category, and due to his determination, he achieved the result he desired. But still, when he returned home, he was not very pleased. Maitreya Uvacha Matu Sapatna Vagpanar Hridividastutan Smaran Naichan Mukti Pater Muktim Tasmat Tapam Upeivan. Maitreya answered, Dhruva Maharaj's heart, which had been pierced by the arrows of harsh words of his stepmother, was greatly aggrieved, and thus when he fixed upon his goal of life, he did not forget her misbehavior. He did not demand actual liberation from this material world, but at the end of his devotional service, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared before him, he was simply ashamed of the material demands he had in his mind. Purport. This important verse has been discussed by many stalwart commentators. Why was Dhruva Maharaj not very pleased, even after achieving the goal of life he desired? A pure devotee is always free from any kind of material desires. In the material world, one's material desires are all most demoniac. One thinks of others as one's enemies. One thinks of revenge against one's enemies. One aspires to become the topmost leader or topmost person in this material world, and thus one competes with all others. This has been described in the Bhagavad Gita 16th chapter as asuric. A pure devotee has no demand from the Lord. His only concern is to serve the Lord sincerely and seriously, and he is not at all concerned about what will happen in the future. And the Mukunda Mala Stotra, King Kulashekar, author of the book, states in his prayer, My dear Lord, I do not want any position of sense gratification within this material world. I simply want to engage in your service perpetually. Similarly, Lord Chaitanya in his Shikshashtak also prayed, My Lord, I do not want any amount of material wealth. I do not want any number of materialistic followers, nor do I want any attractive wife to enjoy. The only thing I want is that I may engage life after life in your service. Lord Chaitanya did not pray even for mukti or liberation. In this verse, Maitreya replied to Vidura that Dhruva Maharaj, influenced by a revengeful attitude towards his insulting stepmother, did not think of mukti, nor did he know what mukti was. Therefore, he failed to aim for mukti as his goal in life. But a pure devotee also does not want liberation. He is a soul completely surrendered to the Supreme Lord, and he does not demand anything from the Lord. This position was realized by Dhruva Maharaj when he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead present personally before him, because he was elevated to the Vasudev platform. The Vasudev platform refers to the stage at which material contamination is conspicuous by absence only, or in other words, where there is no question of material modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, and one can therefore see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because on the Vasudev platform one can see God face to face, the Lord is called Vasudev. See, there's a short A and here's a long A. Dhruva Maharaj's demand was for a position so exalted that it was never enjoyed even by Lord Brahma, his great-grandfather. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is so affectionate and kind towards his devotee, especially to a devotee like Dhruva Maharaj, who went to render devotional service in the forest alone at the age of only 5 years, that although the motive might be impure, the Lord does not consider the motive. He is concerned with the service. But if a devotee has a particular motive, the Lord directly or indirectly knows it, and therefore he does not leave the devotee's material desires unfulfilled. These are some of the special favors by the Lord to a devotee. Dhruva Maharaj was offered Dhruvaloka, a planet that was never resided upon by any conditioned soul. Even Brahma, although the topmost living creature within this universe, was not allowed to enter the Dhruvaloka. Whenever there is a crisis within this universe, the demigods go to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kshiradakshai Vishnu, and they stand on the beach of the ocean and the milk ocean. So the fulfillment of Dhruva Maharaj's demand, a position more exalted than that even of his great-grandfather Brahma, was offered to him. Here in this verse, the Lord is described as Mukti Pati, which means one under whose lotus feet there are all kinds of mukti. There are 5 kinds of mukti: Sayujya, Sarupya, Salokya, Samipya, and Sarshti. Out of these 5 muktis, which can be achieved by any person engaged in devotional service to the Lord, the one which is known as Sayujya is generally demanded by Mayavadi philosophers. They demand to become one with the impersonal Brahman effulgence of the Lord. In the opinion of many scholars, this Sayujya mukti, although counted among the 5 kinds of mukti, is not actually mukti, because from Sayujya mukti, one may again fall down to this material world. This information we have from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 10:2-32, wherein it is said, Patantada, which means they again fall down. The monist philosopher, after executing severe austerity, merges into the impersonal effulgence of the Lord. But the living entity always wants reciprocation and loving affairs. Therefore, although the monist philosopher is elevated to the status of being one with the effulgence of the Lord, because there is no facility for enjoying with the Lord and rendering service unto him, he again falls into this material world, and his service propensity is satisfied by materialistic welfare activities like humanitarianism, altruism, and philanthropy. There are many instances of such fall-downs, even for great sannyasis in the Mayavad school. Therefore, Vaishnava philosophers do not accept Sayujya Mukti to be within the category of Mukti. According to them, Mukti means transferal to the loving service of the Lord from one's position of serving Maya. Lord Chaitanya also says in this connection that the constitutional position of a living entity is to render service to the Lord. That is real Mukti. When one is situated in his original position, giving up artificial positions, he is called Mukta, or liberated. In the Bhagavad Gita, this is confirmed. Anyone who engages in rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord is considered to be Mukta, or Brahmabhuta. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that a devotee is considered to be on the Brahmabhuta platform when he has no material contamination. In the Padma Puran, this is also confirmed. Mukti means engagement in the service of the Lord. The great sage Maitreya explained that Dhruva Maharaj did not desire in the beginning to engage in the service of the Lord, but he wanted an exalted position, better than his great-grandfather's. This is more or less not service to the Lord, but service to the senses. Even if one gets the position of Brahma, the most exalted position in this material world, he is a conditioned soul. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati says that if one is elevated to real, pure devotional service, he considers even great demigods like Brahma and Indra to be on an equal level with an insignificant insect. The reason is that an insignificant insect has a desire for sense gratification, and even a great personality like Lord Brahma also wants to dominate this material nature. Sense gratification means domination over material nature. The whole competition between conditioned souls is based upon domination of this material nature. Modern scientists are proud of their knowledge because they are discovering new methods to dominate the laws of material nature. They think that this is the advancement of human civilization. The more they can dominate the material laws, the more advanced they think they are. Dhruva Maharaj's propensity in the beginning was like that. He wanted to dominate this material world in a greater position than Lord Brahma. Therefore, elsewhere it is described that after the appearance of the Lord, when Dhruva Maharaj thought and compared his determination to his final reward, he realized that he had wanted a few particles of broken glass, but instead he had received many diamonds. As soon as he saw that the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, he immediately became conscious of the unimportance of his demands from the Lord to have an exalted position better than Lord Brahma's. When Dhruva Maharaj became situated on the Vasudeva platform due to seeing the Lord face to face, all his material contamination was cleared. Thus he became ashamed of what his demands were and what he had achieved. He was very much ashamed to think that although he had gone to Madhuvan, giving up the kingdom of his father, and had gotten a spiritual master like Narad Muni, he was still thinking of revenge against his stepmother and wanted to occupy an exalted post within this material world. These were the causes for his moroseness even after he received all the desired benedictions from the Lord. When Dhruva Maharaj factually saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there was no question of a revengeful attitude towards his stepmother, nor any aspiration to lord it over the material world. But the Supreme Personality is so kind that he knew that Dhruva Maharaj wanted these. Speaking before Dhruva Maharaj, he used the word Vedaham, because when Dhruva Maharaj demanded material benefits, the Lord was present within his heart, and so knew everything. The Lord always knows everything a man is thinking. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita also. Vedaham samatitani. The Lord fulfilled all Dhruva Maharaj's desires. His revengeful attitude towards his stepmother and stepbrother was satisfied. His desire for a more exalted position, that of his great-grandfather, was also fulfilled. And at the same time, his eternal position in Dhruva Lok was fixed. Although Dhruva Maharaj's achievement of an eternal planet was not conceived of by him, Krishna thought, what will Dhruva do with an exalted position within this material world? Therefore he gave Dhruva the opportunity to rule this material world for 36,000 years with unchangeable senses, and the chance to perform many great sacrifices, and thus became the most reputed king within this material world. And after finishing with all his material enjoyment, Dhruva would be promoted to the spiritual world, which includes the Dhruva Loka. That was a long purport. Dhruva uvacha samadhina naika bhavena yat padam vidusanandadaya urdvaretasa masar aham sharbir amushya padayosh chayam upeta pagata pritangmati. Dhruva Maharaj thought to himself, to endeavor to be situated in the shade of the lotus feet of the Lord is not an ordinary task, because even the great brahmacharis headed by Sanandana, who practiced Ashtanga Yoga in trance, attained the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet only after many, many births. Within 6 months, I achieved the same result. Yet, due to my thinking differently from the Lord, I fell down from my position. Once again. Purport. In this verse, Dhruva Maharaj himself explains the cause of his moroseness. First, he laments that to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly is not easy. Even great saintly persons like the 4 celebrated brahmacharis headed by Sanatan, Sanatan, and Sanat Kumar. Even the 4 Kumars, they practiced the yoga system for many births and remained in trance before getting the opportunity to see the Supreme Lord face to face. As far as Dhruva Maharaj was concerned, he saw the Supreme Lord personally after only 6 months of practice in devotional service. He expected, therefore, that as soon as he met the Supreme Lord, the Lord would take him to his abode immediately, without waiting. Dhruva Maharaj could understand very clearly that the Lord had offered him the rule of the world for 36,000 years, because in the beginning he was under the spell of the material energy, and wanted to take revenge against his stepmother and rule over his father's kingdom. Dhruva Maharaj greatly lamented his propensity for ruling over the material world and his revengeful attitude towards other living entities. And there's what is the verse by Narottam Das Thakur? It's something like sadhane, or I'm not sure, it's bhajane. Sadhane bhaviho jaha, something paivo taha. Whatever you meditate upon when whatever you're thinking of when you're performing your sadhan, that is what you will achieve. So Dhruva had to achieve what he was wanting, because that's what he was, meditating on when he was doing his service. That's what he's aspiring for. Aho bata mama natmyam manda bhagyasya pashyata bhavachida padamulam gatva yache yarantavat. Alas, just look at me. I am so unfortunate. I approached the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can immediately cut the chain of the repetition of birth and death, but still, out of my foolishness, I prayed for things which are perishable. Purport. The word anatmyam is very significant in this verse. The period tripped me up. Atma means the soul, and anatma means without any conception of the soul. Srila Rishabhadev instructed his sons that unless a human being comes to the point of understanding the Atma, or the spiritual position, whatever he does is ignorance, and this brings only defeat in his life. Dhruva Maharaj regrets his unfortunate position, for although he approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always able to give his devotee the highest benediction of cessation of the repetition of birth and death, which is impossible for any demigod to offer, he foolishly wanted something perishable. When Hiranyakashipu asked immortality from Lord Brahma expressed his inability to offer such a benediction because he himself is not immortal. Therefore, immortality, or complete cessation of the chain of repeated birth and death, could be offered by the Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead himself, not by others. Harim vina nasritam taranti. It is said that without the blessings of Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no one can stop the continuous chain of birth and death within this material world. Therefore, the Supreme Lord is also called Bhavachit. The Vaishnava philosophy, in the process of Krishna consciousness, prohibits the devotee from all kinds of material aspirations. A Vaishnava devotee should always be Anya Bilashita Shunya. That's the verse we learned yesterday in our shloka class. Free from all material aspirations for the results of fruitive activities or empiric philosophical speculation. Dhruva Maharaj was actually initiated by Narad Muni, the greatest Vaishnava, in the chanting of Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This mantra is a Vishnu mantra, for by practicing the chanting of this mantra, one is elevated to the Vishnu Loka. Dhruva Maharaj regrets that although he was initiated in the Vishnu mantra by a Vaishnava, he still aspired for material benefits. This was another cause for lamentation. Although he got the results of the Vishnu mantra by the causeless mercy of the Lord, he lamented how foolish he was to have strived for material benefits while practicing devotional service. In other words, every one of us who is engaged in devotional service and Krishna consciousness should be completely free from all material aspirations. Otherwise, we will have to lament like Dhruva Maharaj. I thought we were reading up to verse 32. One second. No, we're reading up to verse 36. Okay. Matir vidushita devai patadbir asahishnubhi yo narada vachastatyang nagrahisham asattama. Since all the demigods who are situated in the higher planetary system will have to come down again, they are all envious of my being elevated to Vaikuntha Loka by devotional service. These intolerant demigods have dissipated my intelligence, and only for this reason could I not accept the genuine benediction of the instructions of sage Narad. Purport. As shown by many instances in the Vedic literature, when a person undergoes severe austerities, the demigods become very much perturbed because they are always afraid of losing their posts as the predominating deities of the heavenly planets. It is known to them that their position in the higher planetary system is impermanent. As it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, Kshine Punye Martya Lokam Vishanti. It is said in the Gita that after exhausting the results of their pious activities, all the demigods who are inhabitants of the higher planetary system have to come back again to this earth. It is a fact that the demigods control the different activities of the limbs of our bodies. Factually, we are not free even from moving our eyelids. Everything is controlled by them. Dhruva Maharaja's conclusion is that these demigods, being envious of his superior position in devotional service, conspired against him to pollute his intelligence. And thus, although he was a disciple of a great Vaishnava, Narad Muni, he could not accept Narad's valid instructions. Now Dhruva Maharaj regretted very much that he had neglected these instructions. Narad Muni had asked him, "Why should you bother about insult and adoration from your stepmother?" He of course said to Dhruva Maharaj that since Dhruva was only a child, what did he have to do with such insult or adoration? But Dhruva Maharaj was determined to achieve the benediction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore Narad advised him to go back home for the time being, and in mature time he could try to practice devotional service. Dhruva Maharaj regretted that he had rejected the advice of Narad Muni and was adamant in asking him for something perishable, namely revenge against his stepmother for her insult, and possession of the kingdom of his father. Dhruva Maharaj regretted very much that he could not take seriously the instruction of his spiritual master, and that his consciousness was therefore contaminated. Still, the Lord is so merciful that due to Dhruva's execution of devotional service, he offered Dhruva the ultimate Vaishnav goal. Daivim mayam upashritya prasupta iva bhinnadrik tapye dvitiye vyasati bratri bratrivya hridruja. Dhruva Maharaj lamented, "I was under the influence of the illusory energy, being ignorant of the actual facts. I was sleeping on her lap. Being ignorant of the actual facts, I was sleeping on her lap, on Maya's lap. Under a vision of duality, I saw my brother as my enemy, and falsely I lamented within my heart, thinking, they are my enemies." Purport. Real knowledge is revealed to a devotee only when he comes to the right conclusion about life by the grace of the Lord. Our creation of friends and enemies within this material world is something like dreaming at night. In dreams, we create so many things out of various impressions in the subconscious mind, but all such creations are simply temporary and unreal. In the same way, although apparently we are awake in material life, because we have no information of the soul and the supersoul, we create many friends and enemies simply out of imagination. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that within this material world, or material consciousness, good and bad are the same. The distinction between good and bad is simply a mental concoction. The actual fact is that all living entities are sons of God, are byproducts of his marginal energy. Because of our being contaminated by the modes of material nature, we distinguish one spiritual spark from another. That is also another kind of dreaming. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that those who are actually learned do not make any distinction between a learned scholar, a Brahmin, an elephant, a dog, and a Chandal. They do not see in terms of the external body. Rather, they see the person as spirit soul. By higher understanding, one can know that the material body is nothing but a combination of the 5 material elements. In that sense, also the bodily construction of a human being and that of a demigod are one and the same. From the spiritual point of view, we are all spiritual sparks, parts and parcels of the Supreme Spirit, God. Either materially or spiritually, we are basically one. But we make friends and enemies as dictated by the illusory energy. Dhruva Maharaj therefore said, "Daivim mayam upashritya The cause of his bewilderment was his association with the illusory material energy. Mayaitat prartitam vyartam chikitseva gatayushi prasadya jagaratmanam tapasa dushprasadanam bhavachidam ayacheham bhavam bhagya vivarjita. It is very difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but in my case, although I have satisfied the Supersoul of the whole universe, I have prayed only for useless things. My activities were exactly like treatment given to a person who is already dead. Just see how unfortunate I am, for in spite of meeting the Supreme Lord, who can cut one's link with birth and death, I have prayed for the same conditions again. Purport. Sometimes it so happens that a devotee engaged in the loving service of the Lord desires some material benefit in exchange for this service. This is not the proper way to discharge devotional service. Out of ignorance, of course, sometimes a devotee does so, but Dhruva Maharaj regrets his personal behavior in this connection. Swarajam yachato mordyan mano me bhikshito bata ishvarat kshina punyena falikaran ivadhana. Because of my state of complete foolishness and paucity, I don't know this word. Paucity is the presence of something in only small or insufficient quantities or amounts. A paucity of information. Okay. So because of my complete foolishness and paucity of pious activities, although the Lord offered me his personal service, I wanted material name, fame, and prosperity. My case is just like that of a poor man who, when he is satisfied, a great emperor who wanted to give him anything, when he satisfied a great emperor who wanted to give him anything he might ask, out of ignorance, he asked only for a few broken grains of husked rice. Purport. In this verse, the word Swarajyam, which means complete independence, is very significant. A conditioned soul does not know what complete independence is. Complete independence means the situation in one's own constitutional position. The real independence of a living entity, who is a part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is to remain always dependent on the Supreme Lord, just like a child who plays in complete independence, guided by his parents, who watch over him. The independence of the conditioned soul does not mean to fight with the obstacles offered by Maya, but to surrender to Krishna. In the material world, everyone is trying to become completely independent simply by fighting against the obstacles offered by Maya. This is called the struggle for existence. Real independence is to be reinstated in the service of the Lord. Anyone who goes to the Vaikuntha planets or Goloka Vrindavan planet is freely offering his service to the Lord. That is complete independence. Just contrary to this is material overlordship, which we wrongly take to be independence. Many great political leaders have tried to establish independence, but due to such so-called independence, the people's dependence has only increased. The living entity cannot be happy trying to be independent in the material world. One has to surrender, therefore, unto the lotus feet of the Lord and engage in his original eternal service. Dhruva Maharaj regrets that he wanted material opulence and greater prosperity than that of his great-grandfather, Lord Brahma. His begging from the Lord was like a poor man's asking a great emperor for a few grains of broken rice. The conclusion is that anyone who is engaged in the loving service of the Lord should never ask for material prosperity from the Lord. The awarding of material prosperity simply depends on the stringent rules and regulations of the external energy. Pure devotees ask the Lord only for the privilege of serving him. This is our real independence. If we want anything else, it is a sign of our misfortune. Maitreya Uvacha Navai Mukundasya Padaravindayo Rajo Jushastata Bhavadrisha Jana Panchanti Tadasyam Ritirtamatmano Yadrichaya Labdva Mana Samriddhaya. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, persons like you, who are pure devotees of the lotus feet of Mukunda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead who can offer liberation, and who are always attached to the honey of his lotus feet, are always satisfied in serving the lotus feet of the Lord. In any condition of life, such persons remain satisfied, and thus they never ask the Lord for material prosperity. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that He is the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor of everything and anything within this creation, and the supreme friend of everyone. When one knows these things perfectly, he is always satisfied. We're finishing with this purport, by the way. The pure devotee never hankers after any kind of material prosperity. The karmis, however, or jnanis or yogis, endeavor always for their own personal happiness. Karmis work day and night to improve their economic condition. Jnanis undergo severe austerities in order to get liberation, and yogis also undergo severe austerities by practicing the yoga system for attainment of wonderful mystic powers. A devotee, however, is not interested in such activities. He does not want mystic powers or liberation or material prosperity. He is satisfied in any condition of life, as long as he is constantly engaged in the service of the Lord. The Lord's feet are compared to the lotus, wherein there is saffron dust. Wow. A devotee is always engaged in drinking the honey from the lotus feet of the Lord. Unless one is freed from all material desires, he cannot actually taste the honey from the Lord's lotus feet. One has to discharge his devotional duties without being disturbed by the coming and going of material circumstances. This desirelessness for material prosperity is called nishkam. One should not mistakenly think that nishkam means giving up all desires. That is impossible. A living entity is eternally existent, and he cannot give up desires. A living entity must have desires. That is a symptom of life. When there is a recommendation to become desireless, it is to be understood that this means that we should not desire anything for our sense gratification. For a devotee, this state of mind, nispriha, is the right position. Actually, every one of us already has an arrangement for our standard of material comforts. A devotee should always remain satisfied with the standard of comforts offered by the Lord. As stated in the Ishupanishad, Tena taktena bhunjita. This saves time for executing Krishna consciousness. So now it is almost 8 o'clock, and great, we managed to finish. And tomorrow, where are we reading up to tomorrow? I'm just looking at the list I made. Okay, so tomorrow we are reading to the end of the chapter. We're going to finish the chapter tomorrow, verse 67. So, description of the city and palace, the decorations in the city and blessings on Dhruva. I skipped. Reception of Dhruva Maharaj. Uttanapad receives Dhruva. Even Suruchi blesses Dhruva. Everyone respects a devotee.
It's 8 o'clock.
Uttam and Dhruva embrace each other. Suniti embraces Dhruva, and the people praise Suniti. And then there's a description of the city and the palace. Decorations of Dhruva Loka. Decoration, right? No, maybe not. No. Decorations in the city and blessings on Dhruva. Then description of the palace. And then Uttanapad enthrones Dhruva and retires. Seeing Dhruva's qualities, Uttanapad enthrones him as emperor and retires. So that's what we're reading tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nishkam means to be free from all desires, material desires. Like Nishkam karma, Nishkam karma means to be free from all, to not be attached to the fruits of your activities, to offer all the fruits to the Lord, completely desireless of what the results of your activities will be. I mean, you understand what I'm saying. Jai Shri Guru Garanga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki Jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Garanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shila Gurudeva ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Garanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Garanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Garanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Mahabhagavat Shila Goksharas Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki Jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Rupa Navagorya Guru Varga ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopal Patadash Raghunath, Shara Goswami Prabhu ki Jai. Namachay Shila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund ki Jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki Jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki Jai. Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya ki Jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Dhruva Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Krishna Gharva ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki Jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Vrindaya Tulsi Devaya Priyaya Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavatai Namo Namaha Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat Pranams Hari Bo. Okay, thanks for doing it, Guru. Yes, I will take rest. Right, Hari Bo.